Hey folks, so I am outside in front of my succulent Buddha bowl. So if you recall, about last year around this time, I started to craft this succulent Buddha bowl, and I have left it outside for that entire time. And we're going to basically snip it up and see what has survived, see what maybe had some challenges, and maybe plant in a few more succulent plants in here as well. Just a reminder, these are all cold hardy succulents. So even though you could grow many of these indoors and they'll do just fine, they also do pretty well. In some cases, if you garden outside, you'll understand that zones 4, 5, 6, these have no problem whatsoever. So let's get started on today's project. As I mentioned, I had planted this up last year, and this was on the deck for quite some time, but then we had to replace the deck, so I moved it in the ground, and I could see some grass seeds coming in. I could see some dieback on some of the stems, so we'll end up clipping those out. And I think I want to refill, because now that everything is settled in, I'm going to refill with some of Espoma's bonsai mixture, which I really like. It has that expanded shale and also calcined clay as well. So it has this nice orange and gray look that makes it a beautiful topper. I would have used the bonsai mix all the way throughout, but it's kind of a precious product. It comes in a small bag, so I tend to use it in smaller pots or as a topper in some of these larger plantings. And then I use more succulent or cacti soil mixed with quite a lot of perlite, and I mixed some horticultural charcoal in this as well. I'll link back to that video so you can see how this was made, but a number of the plants have spread and look amazing. I will say many of you on the close-up camera will get enjoyment because you'll see chipmunks running back and forth. So they have a tendency to use this as their perch. So I have this right now on the deck again, and this piece of wood that I had propped up, you could see that it grayed very nicely in the weather, and oftentimes I see like a chipmunk kind of sitting here. So I figured, why not invite them to the party here? The first thing I'm gonna do is, this was probably something I planted, and I'm trying to remember exactly what I planted. Oh, this could have been the Delosperma, because I'm not seeing that in here. So maybe that wasn't, maybe that didn't like the soil. Maybe it was sitting under snow too long, because again, this was outside. Oh, and I should point out, you'll see some of our native pollinators, our native bees coming to the flowers here. And I had mentioned this when we started to plant this, but sometimes these sedums and sempervivums, they give great blooms, and we don't think about those. I mean, we think about a lot of our native plants, yes, but a lot of these plants, which are from Europe, I think Morocco, maybe Iran, are great pollinator plants, mainly generalist pollinators, but you could see some of our native bees absolutely adore this. And you could see this is starting to bloom here, and this is the red wiggler, I think it was, or the chocolate ball. This is one of my favorites, but it's interesting because I planted it over here, and it seems to have spread all throughout, which is really interesting because it was very localized. Oh, and here's another thing, like these have their little roots in, but they're kind of sticking out. So we need to actually fix this. I mean, it's kind of fine on its own, but I have some tours coming, some garden tours coming, and I want to make sure that everything looks as good as it possibly can. I have some like dried grass and bits here. And I see a little red squirrel trying to come in because he wants some of the peanuts. Now, if you ended up bringing this in and you had all this kind of chaff and old grass and all that, and then you watered it and you have no wind or no airflow, then some of these plants could potentially rot out. So you have to be cautious about and mindful like where you're actually going to be putting this display. All right, so I'm cleaning out some of these more of these dead stems. They look a little unsightly. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. This is really spread, and that's something to keep in mind. If I have another planting that I did where I planted this dragon's, I think this is called the sedum dragon's blood, and it's really taken over. So you have to be mindful about what you plant, and you really don't know until you actually plant it what's going to take over and what's going to be more well behaved. Here's a little grass seedling, probably a little crab grass that has moved in. So I have some new plants. I realized as I was getting them that I was getting quite a lot of Sempervivum globiferums, and I just really love the globe shape of these, and they're very sturdy plants compared to this one. And I have done an episode on the different categories of Sempervivums, and you can see that this one, this is Sempervivum Hester that I'm holding in my right hand. This one has a very soft, delicate, ciliate leaf. And I find that these, if they're not planted in very well draining soil, especially if they're in the ground, they have a tendency to rot. Whereas this one's, the globiferums, and even the characteristic arachnoideums, let me show you that one. So this one is in my right hand. This is an arachnoideum type, and this one is called Sebinese. You can see it has this basically cobwebby look, so that's like kind of traditional arachnoideum type. These also I find are exceptionally good outside. Now I want to compare that to this one in my left hand now, this Sempervivum cillosum, and then this subspecies cillosum. And you can see that this also has this ciliate look on it. And I'm sure that when you get under a microscope and you look at the cilia or the trichomes on these plants, that they look slightly different. But, you know, I would say, oh, you know, the arachnoideum and the cillosum, they look very similar in nature. So we have lots of options here, and you can see that many of the Sempervivums have done well. Some of them have kind of hollowed out, so they're not as fresh any longer, or they might have rotted out, but the rest around them look really good. So I'm going to take out the rotten ones. And oh, I should show you too. So I have lots of ones. This is Prometheum chrysanthem, so that's pretty. Thinking of maybe planting that in here. This is Acetum reflexum angelina. So this one gets beautiful yellow flowers on and tends to color up. I might not plant this one in here, but I did get it. It's one of the ones that I've kind of seeded in this stony area here, and I'm hoping they'll come up. I probably have to wait until next year to see if it'll end up taking. This one's also really beautiful. This is another arachnoideum type. This is True Gorges de Delau. I probably pronounced that wrong, but you can see it's not as fuzzy and hairy as the last arachnoideum type that I showed you. It just has kind of the cobweb in the center. Well, there's lots of spaces that I could do this. So you see here is a nice planting space. So I might do that. And this will probably be much more of a meditative planting, and you can enjoy the chipmunks running back and forth. I even have a plate of food right here, but I don't know if they'll come to the right side of me. Okay, so this is the Globiferum subspecies Hirsutus borealis. And I really love the look of that, and it's already starting to get some reds at the tip. So I'm gonna take a chance and plant this one in here. We just had a nice rain last night too, so this got well watered, and probably won't even water this in. I think the Sempervivums really spread out nicely and kind of look good in with all the sedums, because sedums have a tendency to also take over, like this one, like I said. And look at how the chocolate ball and the Sempervivums are just kind of moving in between here, in between the crack of the wood. That's pretty cool. Since this is a different look, I'm going to plant the Prometheum chrysanthem. It almost has a bit of a flower look, just like this Sedum floriferum. So it has, I don't know, there's something about it that I think has some synergy. So I'm just going to clear out some area here in the back. And this is the thing about some of these bowls that one makes. You have to refresh them. They don't just stay compact and cute all the time. Things grow out and you have to edit. And that's sometimes challenging to do because there's other things to do in the course of a day. And so you do have to make time for it, just like anything. But if anything, plants give us an opportunity to really slow down, have a hobby that hopefully de-stresses us. It's not meant to stress us out. So if you feel like you've taken on too much with your plants, then maybe it's time to kind of step back or downsize. And I think that's like important for us to also remember. I don't have as many houseplants as I typically have had in the past. And I feel like at this point in my life, it's okay for that. I've been much more concentrating on having plants outdoors around me. And I think that, you know, when living in the city constantly, I felt like I was disconnected from my environment. I mean, I think that's why you have floor-to-ceiling windows in the city, right? Because you want to feel more connected to the environment around you. Whereas in the country, you could have smaller windows because you're going to spend more time outdoors and you don't need to feel that kind of connection to nature because you have that connection to nature already. A lot of things I'm thinking about just from the standpoint of like renovating and building and kind of reflecting on my time when I lived there full time in the city versus now when I'm living part-time. So there's a little dig mark here, and I think that a chipmunk probably came in and maybe dug a little hole to bury some seeds. Surprisingly, I don't have any sunflower seeds growing up in here, which I thought I would, because most of my planters outside have had some kind of sunflowers growing in them, compliments of my chipmunk. Let's see what would look nice here. We could go with small arachnoideum types. That's not bad. I like how it has all the pups there. This one I love. Ooh. No, I like this one. This is another globiferum. You see? Kind of attracted to these guys. Okay, so this was Sempervivum globiferum soboliferum coconos. I mean, how do they come up with these names? Wait, what else? Wait, I'll show you what else I have. I haven't even gotten to it yet. But it's kind of like a grab bag of succulents. Okay. Oh, I should make mention that some of these larger ones I had gotten from a very favorite garden center of mine. They do mainly outdoor gardening products, but it's called Rare Roots. So if you happen to garden outdoors, they have some really excellent varieties. They don't ship out in the summer months, but they ship out in spring and fall. But these little succulents, these like 2.5-inch succulents, I get from Mountain Crest Gardens. So they have such a great variety of succulents there. Look at this little tiny bee. You probably can't see him, but he is just loving these flowers. It's fabulous. And these flowers, I mean, they are just so striking. You know how folks will say, oh, well, cacti flowers are really amazing. Well, these succulent flowers are awesome. And you see how they stick out these long necks? I mean, when they're in the wild, because these are just like so close to the ground, like little stones, is that it sticks out this really long giraffe neck. And it puts out all these beautiful bright blooms, and they're like, hey, come pollinate me. So it really is a signal for the pollinators. And look, it's working even here, even with all this other stuff blooming around. Okay, so this one is the Sempervivum arachnoideum, and that's the True Gorges de Dalou, or it's probably French, and I'm just completely mauling that language. It's D-A-L-U-I-S. To dig a little deeper in this hole. I'm just using nothing, I'm not using nothing fancy. I'm using a chopstick that I keep in my garden drawer for things like this. I always keep a couple peanuts in my pocket. Yes, Chippy, I do. In case you want some on that side. Well, maybe I could actually plant some of this Angelina in here because this is a completely different form. And I'm kind of going with, I mentioned this when I was building this, but I wanted that kind of red color, that red and yellow colors. It's unfortunate that Delosperma has left this world and is no longer here because it got these beautiful fire engine red flowers with the yellow centers. But, you know, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and no sense trying to plant it again. So let me do the Angelina maybe right here, maybe right here. I have a little bit of space that could go. And like I said, these get really cool yellow flowers, and I planted these in the landscape actually. I'm hoping they'll take in an area that I'd rather not get grassy. I mean, sometimes the sedum could serve as an alternative lawn space, if you will. One that you don't step on too much, but. This does have a tendency to spread, this Angelina one. They'll often use it in plantings of green roofs as well, like sedum green roofs and stuff. It's a common one that folks will use. Okay, let's see. This one's pretty too. This one is Marmorium, Sempervivum marmorium, and you can see that it has these little red tips. I'm gonna see if I could actually fit this one as well. And it's good to top this off with some of the bonsai mixture, because basically when you tear it up like this, you expose all the soil medium or this potting medium below it. So let me show you what else I have here. Now, this is a bag. I think I got 50 or maybe 100 of these Sempervivums that Mountain Crest sells that are pretty much unrooted. And you know, your guess is as good as mine as to what cultivars these are. Well, if you don't care about, you know, what cultivars that you're getting here, then heck, you know, why not just like get these, and you could plant them all over. So these are some of their cold hardy succulents, and I think they just probably fall off, or they collect them, or they get too big outside of their 2.5-inch pot, and they just kind of throw them in a bag. It's like kind of a grab bag of succulents, and you get them for a discount. So I thought that was great, and I thought this was going to be perfect for this project, because I could just kind of stick them into some of the bare parts, even on a part just like this, like in this piece of wood. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. In fact, I'm gonna put just a little bit of substrate down here, just so the plants have something to grow in. And that's a good way to fill in the gaps, and you have all this selection. You know, the ones that have a little red spots on, I think I have a tendency to like, because this was a bit more of a warm color palette, even though there's quite a lot of green in here. These kind of look like they were part of a family. And then is just stick them into some substrate, and I don't even have to water this in, because we'll be getting rain in the next like 4 or 5 days, and they will just take. This is an arachnoideum type, I could tell. What's nice about this is I even could put some like right around the edge, and I don't have to worry about like planting them in too much. I press them in a little bit into the substrate so they could have, so their like base, the meristematic region could actually start developing some roots. Now I just have to worry about like the chipmunk coming in and knocking some of these out, because like I said, they do have a tendency to sit on here and enjoy the view. I don't blame them. How can I blame them? All right, this is looking amazing. So I have plenty more that I have yet to use, these great arachnoideum types, but I'm gonna be using these for other projects. I have a tendency when I'm building something like this, or I'm planting something like this, I just get a little bit more than I absolutely need, but this is starting to get much more complex. I absolutely love it. It's such a beautiful display. And we'll keep it here for now on the deck, but after a while I might like move it up onto a table so that people could really see it and study it. And gosh, within probably the next couple days, more of these will be coming into bloom. So yeah, enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and you could see what it looked like after a year and what it looks like after just tidying it up quite a bit, you know, with taking out some of the old stems and just refilling in with some of the bonsai mixture and topping it off. I think it's made a real improvement. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.
Stay tuned here for more progress, plant tips, tours, and plant-filled hangout sessions here on Plant One On Me. And if you have a second, hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button to share your love for the channel. That helps us grow and share our videos to more folks like you. And if you want a deeper understanding of plants, head over to homesteadbrooklyn.com to check out all of our online houseplant courses and offerings, from the 125 houseplant care spreadsheet to the Houseplant Masterclass. And we'll see you in the next episode.